So, hey everyone, hope you can hear me. I'm having some little trouble streaming from my kids' room, so yeah, basically, welcome everyone for today's Elixir Berlin. Today, the agenda is slightly different than usual. But before we start with that, yeah, so the live session, if you can see this, you are probably already on YouTube. So here is the link that you can use if you are not already in Hangouts, then not Hangouts but Discord, then please join that now. Here is the link. It's basically bit.ly elixir-berlin-discord. Yeah, the action, so it's very important for you to join there because most of the stuff is going to be, or all the communication is going to happen there. Yeah, so basically I'll give you some time to join it. For those who are not yet there, I hope there are some. So the agenda for today, we didn't have like any talks submitted in advance, so we will basically, the idea is to go with an extreme startup coding dojo, where the idea would be then I will give a brief introduction of what an extreme startup dojo is, or like and how like what's the setup, how it's going to look, and then in the first step I would like to ask for those who want to join it, like to follow the steps and set up their environment, and then we have one request for lightning talk. So Devin, if he will be ready after the initial part of me describing the Extreme Startup Coding Challenge, then I would give a word to Devin. I see him in the chat, so I assume that he will be giving his lightning talk as well. And then, so basically for the last part, we would be actually trying to do, for those who want, the Extreme Startup Coding Dojo. So I'll go ahead and give an introduction what this thing is about. So basically, yeah, so for the Extreme Startup, like there is a project on GitHub. Where like the whole idea of it is basically that like you set up a web server that is basically capable of asking questions. So basically the web server is the core of the whole Extreme Startup Coding Dojo, or like Coding Kata, and every attendee has to register has to build his own simple web application and register it to the Extreme Startup server. So how it looks like, so basically this is like what I did is I started, like I created a server, I set up it under this URL, so everyone should be able to visit that and register their own applications and then see the leaderboard as well. But basically So that is one thing, the server, and to actually, like, for the server you have to like add a player where you would add your name and you would add the public URL of your web server, meaning that so you have to have a public URL. So I prepared a template where I used ngrok to expose my my web application to the web. So basically that's what I would, for those who want to try it out, you will need to either write your own simple web application from scratch if you can, but basically I think using a template is way easier because you can clone the application, boot it up, and start joining the challenge basically, or the dojo. Once you register a player, the server will start sending HTTP requests to the player's server with questions. And the whole idea of this challenge is that, or like coding kata, is that you basically So basically, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clone this repository, set it up, and register myself to the server, show you how it works, and then basically I will give the word to Devon, and others who will want to join will be able to, and we'll give some time for others who want to do the same to create this as well. Okay. Okay, so my shell is not currently visible, so I'll have to change that. So 222. Bah. So basically I have to add a window. Okay, so there it is. You should be able to see my terminal. So basically, so I'm cloning the repository. Installing the dependencies. So basically, trying to run it. So there are some tests present, and those we will need afterwards. And the app is basically compiled, so I'll check whether it's available. Localhost 4000. Yes, it is. So I'm trying then now to expose it through ngrok. Basically, if you don't have ngrok installed, then brew ngrok should work if you are on a Mac. And now, so I got basically public URL for my application. Now let's basically add that to the server. I'm submitting the application. Oh no. Very interesting. Okay. So yeah, nice stuff. Okay, so basically I have to check what's going on here. Okay, so it will take some time. Live coding, don't do that and ever. I'll check with Devon whether he is ready to take over and then do his lightning talk. 1 second.
Hello? Alright. Everybody got me? Others. We good? There's a bit of a delay between when I say something and when it shows up, but I think we're good. Okay, so I'm just going to get cracking. What I have to show today is something that I think is really cool that I've been working on for, gosh, the better part of a year. And it is mutation testing. If you are unfamiliar with mutation testing and what mutation testing is, it's sort of what it sounds like. It's about mutating your code and then running your tests. And when I say, like, mutating your code, that was weird. So when I say mutating your code, what I'm talking about is basically taking the source code that you have and just changing stuff, breaking it like bad. Renaming functions, taking numbers and turning them into different numbers, taking atoms and turning them into different atoms. Doing all kinds of wild stuff to your code and then seeing what happens. Because in theory, and this is the hope, if you really break your application, your tests should find that, right? I would hope that my tests would find it if I were to start randomly renaming modules and functions and changing integers and stuff, that my tests would find that. But occasionally when we're writing tests, we miss stuff. It's really easy to not test certain parts of your code because you just forgot. Like you wrote some error handling without actually writing a test for it. And so mutation testing helps us find that. It helps us find gaps in our tests. It can also help us find unused code, which is also super valuable. So if there are code paths that aren't used, that aren't reachable, this will just sort of highlight that by saying that it's untested. When you're looking at it, you might think, oh no, this is definitely something we need to keep, but it's untested. Or you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, well, you know what? Maybe we don't need this code anymore. Maybe we can delete this case. Maybe we can delete this whole function. Who knows? So mutation testing helps us do that. And I have been working for a while on a mutation testing library that I'm calling Muzak. And it's going to be released next week. That's the plan at the moment. What's going to happen is there's going to be 2 versions of it. There's going to be an open core sort of model. So there's going to be a basic version of Muzak, and then there's going to be a paid pro version of Muzak. And I'm going to give a quick intro to using both of those tonight, just so that folks can see what it'll look like, and if anybody has any feedback, I'd love to hear it. But the gist of it is pretty simple to get started with. So we've got the main branch of Benchy here, totally normal stuff, and to get started with Muzak, all we need to do is do 2 things. The first one we don't even really need to do, but it's helpful. So in this preferred CLI end, we're going to change Muzak to test, so that when we run the mix task that actually does the mutation testing for us, it's run in the test environment, which we need to do. And this is just a little convenience. And then we actually need to add the package to our dependencies. And we can say only test here, because that's easy enough. And then we do a little next steps.get. We get our dependencies, and then it's as simple as mix Muzak. Now this is going to take a while, because the thing with mutation testing, the hard part of it, is in theory, for every mutation that you generate, you need to maybe run your entire test suite, which can take a long time. Benchy has a pretty decent test suite. Luckily, it's not so slow, but we do have a lot of tests in it. So it can take a while, and that's one of the big differences between Muzak, which is going to be the open source version, and Muzak Pro. Muzak, the way it works is it will randomly generate 25 mutations for us. You don't really have much control over that. There's one way that we can control it that I'll show you a little bit more, but if I were to let this run on its own for as long as it could, like to generate all mutations and then run the whole thing, it can take a very long time. So we just do 25 mutations and we let it run, and they're chosen randomly. And we can see here that if we were to just straight up rename this function head and then it doesn't trigger a failing test. So we have pattern matching in a function head here, and we are missing a test for this version of the head, the function head. And I can see that from the output. Right? So I can see that if I do this, I don't trigger a failing test. So maybe we need another test, or maybe we just don't even need that clause anymore. Maybe we can delete this function head. That would be cool. I like deleting code. So that's something for me to investigate. So the mutation testing has shown me that what will happen, and then it's up to me as a developer to use my brain and figure that out, figure out what I need to do about this now that I have that information. But I at least have this information. Now, the one thing that you can do with Muzak to sort of control things a little bit is if you want to only apply mutations in one file, you can do it this way with that only flag. Pretty much the same way that you would do it with XUnit. So this will say generate 25 random mutations in that one file. It may not be the same mutations that were run before. That's okay. That's sort of one of the deals with the open source version, is that it's going to be sort of randomized so that you can get used to mutation testing, see what will happen, but it's not as powerful as the Pro version. And we'll see again, so 25 mutations this time, all within that, only 23 ran this time, because I guess there were only 23 available mutations in that file, and we saw the same failure. So that's pretty cool. The other thing I want to mention is that in Muzak, the regular version, there are only a couple mutators, whereas in Pro there are a bunch. So you will be able to find more gaps in your test suite or more mutations that might survive with Muzak Pro. And Muzak Pro is pretty much the same, so I can do Muzak Pro just to show. I set up a quick branch here just to show that it's pretty much the same in terms of getting set up. So we do the same thing here with Muzak test. There's also another mix task involved because there's a config file which is pretty involved, or you can make really involved if you want. There's a lot of configuration in Muzak Pro. So there's that, and then it's served out of a private Git server, so it's going to be a Git dependency. So that's the main difference there, but you still run it the same way. Now you can also control how many mutations to generate, so I can just do a single mutation, which is great. But then you also get one of, I think, the best parts, which is when you look at this file, we have some configuration profiles here, and the configuration profile, it gives you one for CI, for running in CI, which is great. And the big bit of that is this filter for mutations. So there's a lot going on here, but basically it's just going to say only run only mutate lines that have been changed since the last commit by a different author. That's the way I have it by default, because that works for if you're squashing commits or doing merge commits. But this will be great for running in CI. So this will still take a little bit of time, but way less than the full deal. So for example, I think in here I can show the last time I ran the full thing on Benchy. No? here's a good version. So 1,936 mutations, of which 177 survived. Now, some of these were false positives because this was a very early run, but clearly you're not going to be running mutation testing for 7,000 seconds, right? So this is the hard part of mutation testing, is how do we maximize the value while minimizing the runtime? And so that's really what this gives you. The pro version gives you a lot of ways to do that, to maximize the value while minimizing the runtime, because otherwise it's kind of unusable. So this is a great thing, and that's what's going to be coming out next week. There's the open source version for folks to get acquainted with. They can try it out, see how it works for them, and then there's the pro version, which is going to be paid, and which will hopefully offer a lot of value to a lot of teams if they need to shore up their test suites to see where they're missing tests, because that's a big thing that a lot of people, I think, struggle with, and we rely on what are imperfect measures of code coverage, which is usually by lines that are hit, whereas I've seen there are lots of times to cover lines and make the code coverage number go up, but not actually cause any failing tests. So mutation testing is a much better way of judging code coverage than by lines, by something like the cover tool, or by coveralls, or some of those things that show you what lines of code are covered in your tests or not, because it's just showing what's executed, not showing what is being tested, right? And there's a big difference between those two. So that's the gist. This should hopefully finish up soon, and then you'll see it takes around like 2 minutes. And there's a whole bunch of other features there too. Yeah, so we can see we're missing a test. If this were part of CI, then I would have been able, as a reviewer or as an author, to see like, oh, I forgot to write a test in this case. So clearly, if I change this to some random thing, that doesn't trigger a failing test. So I should maybe write a test for this. If this is important, I can write a test for it. So it just gives us more feedback to help us do a better job at our jobs. Cool, so that is it. That's all I really wanted to show. There will be more next week, but yeah, that's it. I guess if folks have questions, I'll be around, and I should probably stop the stream button now. I'm not totally sure, but Hugo, you can let me know what I need to do. So yeah, I hope folks find it interesting, and I hope folks find it helpful, most importantly. So I'll be around if anyone has questions or wants to know any more. So yeah, that's it for me. I guess I will stop my stream now and kick it back over to Hugo.
Okay, so hope finally I will be able to finish. Or basically, like, so the domain started working again. Basically, the issue probably was some kind of DNS issue on my side, but yeah. So after you are adding your web application to this Extreme Startup server, the server starts sending questions to your web app, and I'll show you in the logs how that is looking. So here you basically should be able to see, so that it is asking, so it sends queries with questions, and at the moment it only is asking what is your name. So the server is currently running in warm-up mode, That means that, yeah, it only sends one question so that people can prepare like for the actual questions and make sure their setup is correct. So here on the leaders board, there is just me, and I have minus 190 points, and yeah, basically here I can see all the requests that the server has sent to me, and it is always asking the same like question, like probably the same, and like so far the answer has been always wrong. So the goal here would be now to check the logs of your application. At the moment, I already know that the only question it asks is what is your name, and solve that. So I'll try to quickly solve it. So basically answer the question that it is asking. So let's have a look. So we did have tests for it, and then if we look at the code, so we have a router that is listening to questions, and then parsing the parameters, extracting the question out of the parameters, and passing it to the question module.answer method, which generates the answer and returns it. So we are looking into the question module, and there basically, so here this is already a test for this question, and in the logs I think we can see, so the question is what is your name, and the answer was name provided while registering server. So that means, so you are supposed to give the name that you were passing into the server, which is in this case Hugo. So that's what I'm going to do now. So basically here, respond changing Hugo, running the tests, and now it's failing because there is this doc test, Hugo, running tests, it's green. So basically now I should be ready to deploy, or in this case just restart my web application, and it should start generating valid questions, or like valid responses. We already see there was one question asked and the answer was Hugo. That means that I should be able to see in the web console that I had some green answers. So yeah, we have correct answers coming in, and that means that, so my points are still way far in minuses, but it should be start decreasing. Yeah, so this is basically it about Extreme Startup. So once you have your setup ready, basically you are supposed to restart the server and re-register your like player, and then it will start sending not just one question repeatedly, but it will start sending different questions. Yes, so basically that was pretty much it. So I assume like if anyone wants to play with me, so I will be like trying to work through the Extreme Startup now. If not, feel free to chat in Discord. Yeah. For like the Extreme Startup, the code is like the server itself is written actually in Ruby, and like quite an old application. You can find it on GitHub, and the template I use now, you can find it under Elixir Berlin Extreme Startup client. This is basically what I'm using now. It's not perfect, but basic version that works. So if you want to try it out and play with me. If not, I guess see you next month or talk to you in the Discord chat. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, so I'll guess I'll for now keep the leaders board. Oh, Dan joined with me, minus 20 points. So basically, I'll keep the leaderboard here, and we'll, like, if you have any questions, write in the Discord channel. If anyone else wants to join, do that. Basically, now would be the time to prepare your setup, so that you start getting positive points for you're capable of answering your name, basically. And once that is done, I would switch the server to real mode, not to warm up mode, so that we can actually see real questions coming in there. Yeah, because here it's very important to remember that writing test is really important, because for every question that you answer once correctly and afterwards you don't anymore, you will get massive penalties. So make sure that you don't break any functionality that was already there previously. Okay, so thank you. I'm signing off from here. I'll keep the leaders board running.